Welcome back to Dinar Community Channel. They laughed when we held the dinar. They called it a fantasy, a dead currency, a dream that would never happen. But on one historic day, everything changed. The US dollar trembled, global markets froze, and the Iraqi dinar rose to power. This isn't speculation anymore, it's a financial revolution. The day the dinar spoke louder than the dollar has arrived, and the world will never be the same. July 2025 will forever be remembered as the month the global financial world was shaken to its core. After decades of speculation, rumors, and silent movements beneath the surface, the Iraqi dinar finally re-emerged, not just as a regional currency but as a global powerhouse. And on that fateful day, it didn't just gain ground against the dollar. It surpassed it. Quietly, steadily, and unmistakably, the dinar spoke louder than the dollar, and the world had no choice but to listen. The journey to that historic moment was anything but ordinary. The Iraqi dinar had long been viewed as a speculative investment, the subject of forums, late-night conversations, and tightly knit communities hoping for a life-changing shift. Those holding the dinar, often labeled dreamers or conspiracy theorists, endured years of ridicule. Yet, they remained vigilant, watching every policy change, IMF report, and central bank whisper. Leading up to the revaluation, signs were hidden in plain sight. Iraq had been quietly restructuring its economy. Oil revenues soared, corruption was systematically rooted out, and international partnerships were established beyond just oil. Iraq embraced agricultural expansion, digital infrastructure, and cross-border trade initiatives that positioned the country for a diversified future. But none of these developments seemed to register fully with the global media. Analysts dismissed the moves as regional politics, missing the fact that Iraq was building the foundation for a new financial identity. Then came the silence, the so-called blackout period that caught many off guard. Transactions slowed, Forex platforms stalled, and global wire networks briefly flickered with inconsistent reporting of the Iraqi dinar's rate. Behind the scenes, financial systems were recalibrating. Exchange houses received quiet instructions to prepare for recalibration. Banks began training private wealth managers for an expected influx of high-net-worth individuals, many of them, surprisingly, ordinary citizens who had simply believed in the long-term potential of the IQD. When the global financial markets opened that day, a subtle but staggering shift had occurred. The new rate of the Iraqi dinar, $4.86 per IQD, began circulating on closed networks and finally hit mainstream platforms. Some dismissed it as an error. But within hours, confirmations came from the IMF, the Central Bank of Iraq, and several US-based banks, including Wells Fargo, Chase, and Bank of America. By midday, the Iraqi dinar was trending globally, not as a speculative hope, but as a real financial contender. The US dollar, long considered the backbone of international commerce, saw its dominance shaken. It didn't crash, but it was challenged in a way unseen since the emergence of the euro or the threat of digital yuan. And the challenge didn't come from China, the EU, or any BRICS nation. It came from Iraq, a nation that had once been seen only through the lens of conflict and instability. That perception, overnight, was shattered. Media networks scrambled to adjust their narratives. Financial pundits who once scoffed at dinar holders now called them strategic visionaries. Documentaries were pitched, interviews were scheduled. Suddenly, everyone wanted to understand how this happened. The shift wasn't just about valuation. It was about what the dinar now represented: resilience, sovereignty, and strategic rebirth. Inside Iraq, the mood was electric. Citizens saw their net worth multiply overnight. Government officials, long criticized for slow reforms, were now praised for playing the long game. Streets once marked by political graffiti were now filled with celebration and hope. The revaluation had done more than just adjust currency, it had restored pride. Meanwhile, in the West, especially in the United States, a wave of introspection began. Economists debated the causes. Some blamed years of monetary expansion, others pointed to missed geopolitical signals. But beyond the theories, one truth was undeniable. The dinar had dethroned the dollar on key metrics, including purchasing power within the energy sector, international trade settlements in the Middle East, and its influence over commodity pricing. Oil, long priced exclusively in US dollars, began to shift. Iraq and several OPEC+ nations announced joint initiatives to allow oil sales in dinars. The ripple effects were immediate. Energy-dependent nations began building dinar reserves. Forex markets saw unprecedented volumes of IQD trading. Global reserve managers scrambled to rebalance their portfolios. The IMF fast-tracked Iraq's special drawing rights recalibration. What followed was a wave of strategic alliances. Gulf countries extended bilateral trade agreements with Iraq, agreeing to IQD-based settlements. Turkey began denominating border trade in dinar. Even Russia, grappling with global sanctions, embraced the IQD as a partial alternative to SWIFT restricted currencies. And China, ever the pragmatic observer, signed a new energy deal with Iraq, fully denominated in dinars. Central banks around the world issued joint statements recognizing the dinar's role in the new multipolar monetary landscape. The Federal Reserve, while careful in tone, acknowledged the event as a significant moment in the evolution of global currency dynamics. The World Bank praised Iraq for achieving economic sovereignty through strategic governance and fiscal reform. For those who had held dinar patiently, the moment was surreal. Online forums erupted in celebration. Exchange centers saw long lines of new millionaires. Yet among the excitement, a sobering sense of responsibility emerged. Many recognized that this newfound wealth came with challenges, tax implications, financial literacy gaps, and the need for smart planning. Communities quickly organized webinars, connected with wealth advisors, and created support groups to help one another navigate the transition. Financial planners saw a massive surge in clients looking to set up trusts, estates, and philanthropic foundations. Many dinar holders, aware of the stigma once associated with their investment, pledged to use their gains for good. Charities received record donations. Local economies, especially in rural areas, began seeing quiet revitalizations as newfound wealth was invested in real estate, education, and small business growth. But the impact wasn't limited to individuals. Geopolitically, the event forced a realignment of power. Countries that once overlooked Iraq now sought its partnership. Regional conflicts took a backseat to economic cooperation. The Middle East, often viewed as a region plagued by division, found in the dinar a rare moment of unity. Talks of a Middle Eastern economic corridor, led by Iraq and supported by UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, gained traction. Digital innovation followed closely. The Central Bank of Iraq announced the launch of the digital dinar, IQDX, a blockchain-based stable version of the currency designed for fast, cross-border settlements. The token was instantly integrated into major international platforms and even gained tentative approval for limited retail use in the EU. Crypto markets reacted with a mix of awe and opportunity. The digital dinar became a new standard for government-issued digital currencies. Education sectors also responded. Universities began offering new courses on the dinar phenomenon, studying how economic transformation, sovereignty, and international coordination could reshape global finance. Economic historians called it the most significant revaluation event of the 21st century. Financial influencers who had mocked the IQD community quietly deleted their old videos and started analyzing what they missed. In the corporate world, major financial institutions pivoted fast. Hedge funds created dinar-based investment vehicles. PayPal, Stripe, and other fintech platforms began integrating IQD wallets. Even Apple and Amazon announced partial payroll and vendor payments in dinar for their Middle East operations. The tech world was quick to adapt, understanding that flexibility in currencies would now define global scalability. And yet, in the midst of all this transformation, one core truth remained: this was not just about a number on a screen. It was about belief, patience, and strategic resilience. It was about a people who had suffered for decades, economically, politically, and socially, finally reclaiming their seat at the global table. The dinar was no longer a symbol of what could be. It was a living example of what strategic reform, sovereign courage, and unwavering belief could achieve. As the world adjusts to the new reality, economists are calling for updated models. Currencies can no longer be assessed solely on traditional GDP metrics or inflation rates. Strategic assets, geopolitical positioning, and resource sovereignty are being reintroduced as critical variables. Iraq, through its dinar, had redefined what national wealth meant. The dollar, still strong, was no longer unrivaled. And perhaps that's the most transformative truth of all. For decades, the world operated under the unipolar dominance of a single currency. But July 2025 marked a turning point. the beginning of a new era, one defined not by singular hegemony but by diversified strength. The dinar spoke, and the world listened, not with skepticism or ridicule, but with respect. In boardrooms, war rooms, trading floors, and community centers, the conversation had changed. A new financial order was not just imagined, it was unfolding. In the years ahead, economists, politicians, and educators will study that day. But for those who lived it, who held onto their dinars through mockery, doubt, and uncertainty, it will always be remembered as something more personal. It was the day their belief became reality. The day the world changed. The day the dinar spoke louder than the dollar. And the dawn of a new era had truly begun. Like and subscribe for more videos.